Hey there, submarine fans. It's Eric from the subvet.com. You're listening to the Subvets Podcast live.
Battle Station missile for WSRT. Spin up all missiles.
And welcome, everybody. It is a Friday night, although you may be listening to this at some other point, I'm sure, because we're having some problems getting it to go live. I'm Dave.
And I'm Eric from the Subvet.
And joining us tonight, we have
Judd from Cocoa Beach.
And
Dave from Tampa, Florida.
And for the record, for keeping things straight, we're calling him Preacher Dave.
Yeah, we got Preacher Dave and Dave.
I'm sure is a nickname you earned, a nom de guerre, back in your day. How'd you earn that one?
Hanging out with Eric and a gentleman named Patrick Cleveland. They were always causing a ruckus, and I was having to calm them down and chill them out. And they were always wanting to go out, drink, raise Cain, and I was always having to pacify them and keep them not doing that. So
that wasn't me. I wasn't there. I don't know what you're talking about. No, that's right. We called him Preacher Dave, and he was like the voice of sensibility force, so that's what we called him. So these are two members of the Love Division. I know Dave thinks that's funny, but that's what we called ourselves, if you guys remember. I can't remember who coined that. I don't know if I was Tony Luke or Pat. Yeah, it was Pat.
I think it was Pat.
So, but that was saying we would get, like me, I would always get spastic and out of control, man. But that's where we had to calm things down. Hey, we're the Love Division. Let's chill out. Let's just get this done. And we were able to get the procedures done like, a double what everybody else could. It was always amazing what we can accomplish because we had a great team and the teamwork we had. Everybody had like their own thing they were doing that just made it work. Mm-hmm. Judd was doing N1 and tracking everything, doing all the administration, which was awesome to have it. That was solid. And I know you're a good reader. You would really call out the topics and stuff. And I was usually tooling up in the front end, putting in a Hemi with a 4-barrel, carburetor on the front. With some glass packs, because you got to make sure it makes noise when it leaves the boat. But no, it was a good time. So this is going to be an MT podcast with geopolitics and some other things that we might run into, Navy geopolitics.
So I'm disappointed. A nickname like Preacher, I was expecting to have a thumper here, man.
Well, I did my share of that as well.
Okay. All right. Just making sure, because, seems like the way to go. So we've got a bunch of topics tonight we're going to throw out. Erica's graciously volunteered to choose the topics, and so I will throw it over to Eric to kick us all off.
Well, number one, so I just found this guy's got like 4 million followers on YouTube, and he's in the ocean all the time. I didn't look where he was at, but he just bought himself a personal submarines from the late 1990s. So there's a lot of those things out there. It was like a month ago, I think I posted a lady who was a marine biologist out in LA or San Diego area. And she's bought 3 old submarines that are homemade. And she's got YouTube showing the parts, and it's literally like stuff you can buy from the hardware store, So you're going to go underwater with crazy stuff like that. And then last year, if I could find it, I'm going to post this. There were some kids building a submarine out of a propane tank, and they were showing their progress. So it'd be interesting to check in to see if they're alive. But how do you guys feel about going down on these personal submarines? Or if you build one yourself, would you do it?
Well, I think when I was a kid, I probably would have done it without thinking much about it, but pretty sure I wouldn't do it now.
How about you? Judd looks like somebody would go down in a propane tank.
Hell no. Knowing what I know, I think that's the problem, is that a lot of people don't realize all the complexity that there is to operating a submarine. It's not just, going over the falls in a barrel. I mean, you're going to lose oxygen very rapidly. You got to bring that with you or make it. You have to have propulsion. You have to have navigation. I mean, there's a lot that goes on there, and I don't know that these guys are building much more than a Flintstone submarine with pedals on the inside.
So the Hunley doesn't appeal to you?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Well, that's true.
By the way, everybody I think that went over the falls in a barrel died, didn't they?
I think so.
I think somebody didn't survive, though. I think.
But I think they did that back in the 80s. I mean, it wasn't someone early on. It was in the 80s. And it wasn't just a barrel. It was a little more than that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a
probably
super
hard.
protected. Yeah, it was like a super protected. No, it was 1901. 63-year-old school teacher named Anna Edson Taylor. First person to successfully take the plunge over Niagara Falls in a barrel.
Now, man, can you imagine? Yeah, she probably got some fame out of that. I hope so. She did.
Well, we didn't know.
Well, that marine No, we don't even know her. But that marine biologist, I mean, she's got a team of people, so she's probably not going anywhere other than maybe the Bay, I hope, or something really close in, not that deep, with the hardware communications, in case something happens. So I think these, like, and that other guy that I just posted, that I got to look him up because he's got a lot of followers. He's like one of the biggest YouTube channels out there.
Yeah, I watched the YouTube of him, buying this submarine and going through it, his first one introduction. And his friends thought he was crazy for doing it, but I mean, he was trying to take a very sound, very safe approach, and he's done a lot of other adventures as well. So I'm sure that, like any other pioneer, he's going to take the safe precautions. And I mean, he had this big old thick manual. He tried contacting the company, and the company that made the thing went out of business. The company that was offering the training, they went out of business, and so he's on his own. But he's going to have to learn from the ground up.
What qualifies one of these things as a submarine?
Well, I mean, are we going to argue about the term submersible versus submarine? I mean, it goes up. It's designed to go underwater and come back.
Does it have to completely submerge to be considered a submarine, or does it just have to be navigated from below the water, that there's just nothing above the superstructure for the purpose of normal navigation?
I think that's more like a diver, like the old divers with the big protective equipment they had to go real deep.
Let's see.
Possibly.
Definition of submarine is a large sandwich on a long split roll with any of a variety of fillings.
Dang, I'm hungry now. Thanks, Dave, for telling me that.
That's not it. Something that functions or operates underwater, specifically a naval vessel designed to operate underwater. So I'm underwater.
Hey, Preacher Dave, you did like some project management or something at a company you work for. I mean, is that something you can work up, make it safe?
Oh, it'd take a while. I mean, if you saw the write up when we get to the drone conversation, the programs that they were working on for unmanned, just to make sure it was working. I mean, they canceled an $80 million initial program. I mean, that's not a lot for the initial startup cost, but it's a little bit of investment. So it's not something you go into lightly. So there's people who do these propane tanks and stuff. There's a lot of work they have to do, and it takes a long period of time.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great segue. Yeah, let's go into the drones and talk about that. So it's like a new Navy out there. So when we were out there, there wasn't really anything running around like that was using AI or on its own. I mean, these things have the technology where they can surface and charge with the sun and then go back under. So it's a new type of warfare. How do you guys feel about being on a submarine, knowing that, there's a lot of other things that could be out there that might get you?
Well, I mean, that's not a real-time or operation. You said a drone that's out there is probably basically a long-range torpedo when you get down to it, if you think about it, because there's nothing on it that can respond to, well, should I attack? Should I not attack? Making human decisions. And since, I mean, I can't imagine that it would be very easy for an underwater vessel to contact the, home base, speedy, live manner, that they would allow it to do anything tactical without some really well thought out protocol.
So the Navy's got the Snakehead. I'm trying to see who's building that thing. So that's the one that we're using right now, and
that's the one that just canceled. They got a couple other programs. Yeah, that was the one that was canceled. But they got other programs, and there's a whole portfolio, of underwater vehicles that are being worked on right now. So it's new technology that they're breaking into. I mean, so we're still at a what can you imagine these things to do before we're even going to do it, right? Yeah. So like Judd said, you got some that are going to be out there. They're going to be basically long-range torpedoes, right? You're going to put in a lot of coordinates, a lot of variables. If this, attack this. If this speed, if this. But there's a lot of safety protocols that are going there as well, right? Because once that thing's gone, communication underwater is going to be, non-existent. So you have to have a by-wire way of communicating. And if it's deep or you got, bad weather, the seas are choppy, you're going to lose, communications with it. So it's going to have to be a lot of stuff that's programmed in advance. And I don't think we're going to get to a fully attack, automated torpedo anytime soon. But there's a lot of other deliverable payloads, for, special forces, for cargo, for, forward operating, bases. Send the stuff in underwater, silently, submerge at X time at the X location. The guys go out and retrieve it, and they set up the base for the equipment that's on that thing. The Aussies were doing one. It was basically a very long, hollow cargo delivery drone.
So that's the article that I posted today. Australia, they got a new submarine that they think will help, close that gap, where the AUKUS program has been put into place, which is it sounds like they want that to be like a mini NATO on the Chinese side with Taiwan. So we're getting hot into some action with Taiwan and Russia, possibly. And if it went live and you got all this new technology, because I know there's technology out there that we're not even aware of, and it's probably already deployed. Then you got to worry about navigating around these things if you can find them. And then what do you do if you run into them? And if they're big enough to damage your boat that you're on, that'd be interesting, conversation when you go into live warfare situation.
A couple of years ago, we were speculating to a great extent about what happened in the South China Sea. Remember this? And there were a lot of people, not pointing any fingers or name any names, but it rhymes with Eric Ryle, who postulated that the Chinese had some sort of drone that had either intentionally or unintentionally collided with Connecticut. So, it's not beyond the realm of possibility. It's not science fiction anymore.
Wouldn't that have been better, though, Dave, with the Connecticut? I think that would have looked better.
I mean, better in the sense of I would feel a lot more comfortable about it, but not better in the sense of, oh, crap, they have one of those.
Yeah, that's a big we had a podcast on that where we really went how the Connecticut ran into the bottom, and it's just another situation of where what was the other boats we had? What was the one that was hot rodding out there off of Hawaii? He was like
San Francisco.
Yeah, was it San Francisco? He had riders on board.
No,
Greenville. The Greenville had riders on board and but he hit something on that way out.
That was in Hawaii,
hit
right?
the fishing.
Yeah, San Diego. Yeah, well, the San Diego, that was 2005, and to this day, I don't know how those guys got that thing back up, and there was one person killed in that wreck. But yeah, that just goes to say, with all this other stuff out there, navigating underwater. I know they got a lot of better technology. Without even putting it aside, I have no idea what it could be, but it makes it interesting. And as a former submariner, anyways, just like what. Boy, that would be in the back of your mind, when you're going out there. Because when we were out there, we had a big degree of comfortability that nothing was really going to run into us.
Did we have that? Because I remember listening to whales swim up close and wondering, there's a passage in Tom Clancy's book, Hunt for Red October, I think, about the submarine that's running at a flank bell and runs full into a whale. I mean, I never had that fully comfortable feeling that you're talking about, that there wasn't something out there that we could run into. But I did feel better than I would have felt running blind at 25 knots without a fathometer in shoal water.
And field daying. Yeah, I felt better than that. But, you always wondered. I mean, every now and then you'd feel a little bump or something. And in our case, it turned out we had broached, but at the same time. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I could tell you I was never on a speedboat. Never, ever did my boat do these massive speed. Yeah. Well, nothing crazy. It was felt like I was in an office building the whole time.
I'm still confused about what I can say, because when I was in, it can go in excess of 20 knots and 400 feet. Now I hear people talking all the time about crap that I think.
Yeah, they did extend it. They did extend what's the unclassified operating depth and stuff like that. I don't know what it is personally.
I know at one point in my career, we were the fastest Trident, which isn't saying a whole hell of a lot. I get it, but at one point we were the fastest Trident, and we were going faster than 20 knots.
Wow,
that's great.
all I know is, I just enjoyed my ride.
Yeah, you got to be able to go to sleep and not worry about running into anything. That's for sure.
There's something fun about going fast. We couldn't do it after the accident. After the accident, though, the shims and the rudder were messed up, and so anything over about 17 knots, the ship just starts shaking like crazy.
I was going to say cavitation and all that stuff. I mean, you just don't want that. My biggest concern was when we do the angles and dangles. My God, talking about sleeping. Be on one of those bunks and they do angles and dangles. And one moment you're up against the wall, the next minute you're down on the floor.
We had
rolled out of your rack.
We had a machinist mate, Baronello, who was, for some reason, I don't know why, but on Michigan, the ice machine on the mess decks just sucked. I don't know who bought that thing, but they bought a lemon. And I don't know if they ever got it fixed or not, but every patrol, the ice machine would go out. And he had gone to school on this thing, I guess, and had learned how to fix it, quote unquote, for a couple hours at a time. But it required him to squeeze his head into it, where if anything happened, he was going to get stuck, And we were doing angles and dangles one night, and his bunk, a 4.5 bunk, slid into his EAB hole and was screaming because he was dreaming that he was caught in the ice machine. People had to drag him out of his bunk. I'd say it was hysterical, but it's kind of sad in a way too. Just think if the Navy had bought us a decent ice machine, that never would have happened. He probably has PTSD now.
Well, this is a good time. I want to do a small advertisement for Jerry Pate. He's on our Facebook group, and he posts a lot of his personal stories on there. He just finished up a book. It's been published. Should be out in 24 hours. It's called Submariner: 30 Years of Hijinks and Keeping the Fleet Afloat. So he's got a lot of great stories in there. And one of the stories that I really keyed on is he was a big part. I think he was a diver, it said, on the shuttle accident. So, going down to get the part. So that's an interesting story. And he went from enlisted to, I think, a lieutenant commander. So he had a long career. I'm sure that book's going to be pretty interesting. So we'll get that posted up for Jerry, and look out for that. And if you can, purchase it and help support him. And read the book. I think it'll be a good read.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Jerry's got some great stories.
It's pretty. So, Judd, you had a article you wanted to talk about, right?
That's just in the news.
Just in the news.
It's just a news story about some nuke ET. What? Why has it got to be a nuke ET, right? Is accused. He pleaded not guilty of killing his wife with a hammer and setting fire in an attempt to kill their infant son. Can you imagine? 23 years old. Mm-hmm. This up in Groton, Connecticut, and this was all about jealousy over an agreement to have an open relationship. The boy's still alive, found conscious and treated at a local hospital, and but the guy is being held on $3 million bond.
Oh my gosh!
Can you imagine?
So when I posted this, I got to turn the comments up because it causes a lot of anger. I mean, and I could see, it can be some bad things saying, and I completely understand it. But the one thing that comes to mind is, how we were screened when we joined, like back in the 80s. I mean, took all these psychological profile tests. When you volunteer for Submarine, you answering all these different questions that kind of ask the same thing, but in different ways. And they can score in it. They kind of, then when we get the PRP for nuclear weapons, it's even more. And these guys go through nuke school, and I would think that there's some kind of screening program, but is it as effective as it used to be? Is it different? Is it better or worse? I mean, or did this guy just get through,
Well, maybe it's society. I mean, you have a whole group of people that you're trying to choose from, and maybe that just happens to be that we're a different world of young people. This generation is a little different.
He's 23, right?
Yeah.
So his wife's 23 or was 23. So let's timeline this a little bit. Probably graduates school at 18, right?
Right.
Boot camp. Then he goes to whatever A school he's going to go to, or nuke. Do they start with A school or nuke school? I don't know.
They go to A school, but it's nuclear field A school.
Right. So that's 6, 9 months, 12 months.
It depends what it is. He's an ET 21 months for ET A school.
So now he's 21.
Yeah.
Close to. Then he's got to go to nuke power school, right?
Right. That's another 16, 18 weeks to that.
So we're talking about a kid who, literally has no life experience at all. He got married.
Takes back years.
Yeah. He got married to some gal 13 months ago, or even if he got married, I don't know. Their child is 13 months. I struggle with this a lot because, when I joined the Navy, I was 17. And I know for a fact that I didn't actually become safely mature until I was 26, 27 years old. It scares me sometimes to think about how immature I was crawling into missile tubes and loading targeting into computer. But in a way that helped me become that as well. But it really wasn't until I became a Navy instructor, where all of a sudden I'm teaching myself from 5, 6, 7 years ago that kind of clicked in my head. And I went, holy crap. I don't know. We don't know if this guy was qualified. We don't know. It just says he was a submariner. Does it tell us anything more than that? So we don't know.
No.
We don't know if he's a qualified submarine. We don't know what was going on. But I know marriage, there's an old joke about marriage will make you think about committing any crime that you've never imagined before. And if you're that young and that much pressure, an open relationship, who had the open relationship, him or her?
Well, who was going to see?
Right. Exactly. So it's sad. It's one of those stories that, boy, I just hate to see. Glad the little boy is okay, but it seems to me like the Navy, stuff like this doesn't happen in a vacuum. Somebody knew that there was trouble. Somebody knew that there was stress. Somebody knew that there was trouble. And did anybody pick up on that? Did anybody say anything, do anything? That's the big thing about the PRP, Eric, back when we were in, I never felt like we were being pressured to tattle on someone. We had a responsibility that was bigger than a friendship or, something along those lines. We had a responsibility to the nation And so to take that approach, to say something would have been critical. I don't know if that's still the case or not, and I don't know if it applies in the nuclear field or not. But somebody should have said something.
Yeah, being married at that age is there's a lot to be said. Coming around to high school marriage. I mean, I pulled that stunt, and I ended up getting divorced. Right, and I'm not going to talk about the particulars, but I got divorced during C school, and luckily the instructors, and Dave was an instructor in their damn neck. They were a big part of helping me get through that. Because you're right. When you get divorced at that age, you have a lot of anger issues, and it's a miracle that I was able to make it through C school and still get into PRP and make it out to the grant. Yeah. Anybody else? Preacher Dave's being quiet. Well, I got an article. Oh, go ahead.
So I was recently divorced after 30 years, right? And a lot of people will put up with a lot of stuff, like Dave said, marriage will make you do a lot of stuff. A lot of people will put up a lot of stuff, but there comes a point where something makes you snap, right? And when that snapping point comes, you never know what it is. And once you snap, there's no telling what you're going to do either. So, as you said, you were sure there was a lot of stuff that people were, someone knew, right? He was talking to someone about something. Why didn't they do it, right? There are signals out there when people are stressed. There's so many veteran and military opportunities to help people out that are struggling in need. It's just sad that it has to get to that point where the guy feels he has to kill the wife and the son. I mean, that's pretty deep stuff right there to want to kill the child.
That's a good point. Because Dave was just saying, Dave Bowman, not Preacher Dave. He's saying he didn't feel like he was needed to tell on anybody being in the PRP program. But today's all the added pressure, especially with everything that's going on these days. I'm sure it's got to be a lot harder being a submarine. So I'm going to go with Judd on this. It's just it's probably society that drove this, and it's just a lot to deal with. And you're right. Everybody has their breaking point. So. On to the next thing. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, he's been in the Navy for 5 years, second-class petty officer. Status in the military has not yet changed. Was too early to determine what's next. But he was stationed in New London. So
yeah, we'll keep an eye on that story as we go forward. So with all this going on with Taiwan and Ukraine, and what's that on the Black Sea, where everything's contested? Dave, help me out because my geography's off. So, we got submarines out there, and recently a submarine was caught by, I think, a British surface ship, and, they caught them patrolling somewhere and turned away. But, we got there's a lot of action going on. And then on top of that, we got the new boats coming out, kind of like with the drones. So there was an article where the Russians are coming out with this radical new design. I think Russia reveals radical new stealth missile submarine. So it kind of looks like the Virginia class, but they added, missile tubes. It's got like the 7 Tomahawks capability and stuff. And this one looks like it's going to fire a few SLBMs, at least up to 6 on each side. So it's a lot of new technology. These things are sleek, different rudder types on the back. The Columbia coming out, it's like an X pattern. This one looks more like an aircraft. You put bigger wings on it, and it looks like the thing can fly too. So who knows? Preacher Dave probably got some ideas on that.
They're using a lot of LO technology, right? Where your radar cross sections, don't reflect back directly. And it's the same thing works for sonar, right? I mean, there's no, in some of the, not the initial picture you sent, but in some of the other, the cross sections are all at an angle, so there's no real flat surface where you could bounce sonar off. To get a good sounding where it's at. So technology's come a long way, and the SLBMs, the smaller payloads, the better guidance system, the more it's not bigger, better, faster anymore. It's sleeker, accurate, stealthier. That's the game these days.
That's great. And China's boasting they got 5 aircraft carriers and 10 ballistic missiles.
Well, hang on. If you read the article, they're not even building it. That was speculation. They have the resources to do it, right? I mean, it takes time to ramp up programs like that. You have to staff. Yeah, they may have the resources. That's just raw material. Are they building new? Is it new technology? That's design time. It's going to take. Do they actually have the brain power to do it? Have they started the funding for those designs? Or are they just rehashing, older stuff and just producing more, in which case it's not as long. But, I mean, an aircraft carrier takes a long time to build, right?
Right.
And then the aircraft, that takes a long time to outfit as well.
They're stealing everywhere they can because every country builds all their stuff over there, and those guys are doing corporate espionage and stealing every bit of technology they possibly can.
Yeah, they may be stealing technology, but it still takes time to build those things. The manufacturing process is, 1 = 1, period.
Sure.
I mean, I was just saying, working in communications all this time. I mean, it's to the point that some of our customers that are defense related, they got to be careful what type of routers we deploy in their network. Because the Chinese, they can sneak in chips. They build a lot of our products, and you don't have the router types for your customers who have, certain requirements to shield from people stealing and all the internet attack activities. That's a big deal. So on the defense side, I'm sure it's much worse.
All that's fixed now, right? Didn't Congress just pass the CHIP Act that's supposed to fix all that?
Yeah.
Did they? That Levano computer, IBM sold that over to China, and after that, couldn't get a Levano computer anymore.
That's how you say it. I got a couple of those. One of those, I think. Always wondered. Let's call it
Chinese
Lenovo. And you got the how do you say it? Highway or we quit making those phones. Highway, yeah. And that person was arrested up in Canada. So I don't know if there was I know there was some espionage that they were either happening or worried about with that equipment. So a lot of that got pulled out of networks and the cell phones too.
Well, so I hear people crying about it. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they won't let us have it. And I'm just like, you know what? Get over it.
Can you imagine having cell phones on a base today or being on a submarine and what the cell phone use policy is? That's got to be a nightmare because, we got to be real careful about taking photos and stuff. I wonder if they have strict policies on particular type brands of cell phones they can bring
they have on board. Strict policies, period. I don't think that they can just bring a cell phone on board the boat anymore. I think that is like they confiscate them at the brow and put them away so you can have it. So when you get off the boat, you can be topside and do your thing, but you can't be. I don't believe that they let them take photos underway. Not like
maybe
that.
somebody can make a comment on that. When you deploy, do you leave your cell phones behind? Is strict policy you don't get back? Because these surface guys out on aircraft carriers, they had that. That lady, there was a big deal with the fighter pilot. It was female that crashed in the back of the aircraft carrier. No, everybody took pictures or video of that. And, they went the mast over that. So all those guys seem to be able to carry cell
so
phones.
Remember, you're on submarines. The surface fleet's different from the submarine force, right? So a lot of things that people may be able to do, topside, you're not going to be able to do down on the submarine.
If you're a visitor, I don't think they let you go down and take pictures. So, in fact, if you think about it, you don't see pictures on Facebook from guys making patrol coming back, go, hey, check out our halfway night video.
Yeah, when we went down, it was, it's been a couple of years now, but when we went down and visit the Kentucky, it was made very clear to us, no cell phone, don't even bring them. Put them in your car, log them up. And they had the official PR gal there to take pictures of us visiting. But we were not permitted to bring them at all. I have no idea if the crew is or not. I'm interested in, because to me, when I was doing patrols, I would have killed to have a Kindle with me, but I don't even know if they let them bring these. To be honest with you.
Yeah, those type of things. I think as long as they don't have a camera, that they.
Yeah, but what? There's none of them make them without cameras now, do they?
I know.
Yeah,
I
all
don't
your
know.
fighter series have cameras. Your initial readers didn't, but
Yeah.
not the new ones.
And that would have been so great for patrol to have that instead of having to shred up books and pass them around.
Well, I kept thinking they could bring a personal device with all those movies on it, or maybe they just got to bring a thumb drive with their stuff, and it's got to be checked in or something. It's different times, different technology. So I think that's about it. So where can they find you, Dave Bowman?
Well, as always, you can find me on my website, thedavebowmanshow.com or plausiblylive.com. They're the same website. You can email me, dolphindave@slipperyfish.com.
And if you look in the comments below, we're going to have a number for a text line. You can always text us with any comments you have on today's show. And also on the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the SubVet YouTube channel so we can get those views up and get that algorithm going so more of the shows get out there for people to view. And you can reach me at eric@thesubvet.com. And also you can get us on Facebook/groups The Subvet and Twitter /The Subvet. Anything you guys like to advertise today?
No, nothing here.
No, nothing there. All right. And Jay, did you get that? You had that event, right?
That is actually this Sunday. I'm going to be at the, this thing will, there you go. The 2022 Central Florida Fentanyl Summit. I'm the host or moderator of a panel that's going to talk about illicit fentanyl here in Central Florida. So bringing a little bit of my experience from Toastmasters and just leadership and talking to people. We'll be doing that.
That's good stuff. And yeah, I know we're going to post those links again in today's show. And also, you can see me tomorrow. You can meet me from 10 to 4 if you're in the Aurora, Colorado area or Denver area. Come on by. Chambers and Quincy's for a preparedness fair. And I'll put the address link below too. You can come by and meet me, and heck, I might even give out autographs because I'm that famous. With that note, Dave, see if we can do this time.
You really going to try this?
Yeah, let's do it. Ready? One, two, three. The Subvets. Man, you got no time. The Subvets. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.